you might have a very unhappy customer if they realize that you have sold the software they thought that they owned.
Intellectual property rights,
Yeah. What about
that's
them?
an issue. What about them?
It's an issue. Yeah. Okay.
Well, maybe issue is the wrong word, but there are certain aspects that you have to think about sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think maybe that in uh, our particular line of business, doing bespoke software development, it's more often a thing than in other situations. Um, because when we do a software project for a customer, then to whom does that project belong when you're finished? Who has the intellectual property rights to this piece of software?
Well, if you look at the law, usually it says that the developer has the rights to the software he produces, and then the developer can license the software for others to use and copy.
I've actually just read some comments about that law before
Yeah,
we started this.
yeah,
And
that's
what it
great.
says is that because software is a process of writing letters and digits, it's the same rules that applies to if you write a book, a novel, or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, as you said, it belongs to the person who wrote the source code, the
yeah,
programmer.
yeah,
And then it says, but the programmer can contractually give his rights to the company that has employed him.
yeah, and that's usually the case. So when you work at the company that gives you the project of developing some software is the owner of that software.
Yeah. And that's fair enough if you work for Microsoft, right? Because Microsoft, the software belongs to Microsoft and Microsoft sells it.
Yeah,
But we have another layer because we're not using our software ourselves.
yeah,
We made it for someone else,
yeah,
and 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 the point here is that there are various situations. I think you make an offer for a customer to make whatever software system,
hmm,
and the customer pays in principle in full for the system. And so, like if you buy a car, you go down and you put some money on the table and you go away with your car. You don't expect the car dealer to come the next day and say, I'm going to sell that car to someone else too. Uh, and you
mm,
didn't actually buy the car, you only bought the right to drive in it at some point. Uh,
yeah,
and and and
then you're actually moving from the writing area over to the physical area. So
yeah,
uh, that does not apply in the same way. You should still compare with the books. If you buy a book, do you have the rights to reprint and resell that book?
no, you don't.
No.
Let's say you wrote a book for someone.
Yeah.
It happens. You have a ghostwriter, somebody writes a book and you publish it. The
Yeah.
customer publishes it, and then next day he finds that the book has also been published by some other publisher,
Yeah.
exact same book.
Hmm.
Now, you wouldn't want that because that disrupts your whole business idea of making money on that particular book.
Yeah.
Uh, but in the case of software, this might be the same situation, but more often not, I think it's not the same situation, and it probably doesn't matter. Meaning, if we make software for a web shop,
Yeah.
uh, then that is not going to be the only web shop in the world. Uh, and if another customer comes and asks, can you make a web shop? Well, problem is you probably say yes, and then you might not use the code directly, but you sure use the ideas you had, maybe some of the code, but it's still bespoke development. So you might change a lot of things, and the look and feel and so on, but still, maybe there's a core that is common between the two systems. And the point is, does that matter to the customer? Well, probably not.
No, the customer comes to us to solve a problem, to get a solution. They it doesn't matter if we have the solution on our shelf or if we have to create it from scratch.
Yes, but you see, traditionally, I mean, during a lot of years, the ways that we've dealt with this issue has been to say to the customer, the system belongs to you.
Yeah.
Period. It belongs to you. Because we've had this idea, or maybe you still have it, that who would want to pay a hell of a lot of money for a computer system that won't belong to you anyway when it's done,
Yeah.
So it means that you paid for the development, and that motherfucker, sorry, of a software developer is just selling it over and over and over again, Uh, at the point here is that you have a shop where you, for instance, sell gratitude stones or something like that.
Yeah.
That's your business idea, not selling software.
No.
But if there's a lot of shops that are popping up looking, suspiciously like the one you have, you might think, oh, maybe I should have been into software sales instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And we've been through that question multiple times, because when a client comes and asks for a particular system, it might be a system that could be used for other similar companies in that the line of business. But then we haven't really communicated that we own the software. They have spent time communicating with us, so they have been a close partner in the development of this application. So they have actually come with feedback and asked questions and said, "Oh, we need that button here, we need this color, and we need these features are very important for us." So in the software development process, they have been like a very involved partner.
mhm.
And then if we say that, yeah, but we wrote the code, so we have the right to sell it to your competitors, um, is that really fair? Because they have also been a close partner in the development of this application, because it's tailored to their needs.
It's a big question because sometimes, or often, software will give you a competitive edge,
Yeah.
and you would lose that if your friendly neighborhood software developer, sells the stuff to somebody else further down
Exactly.
the river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in those cases, as a client, you want to have the owner rights of the software,
Yeah.
but then the price should reflect that as well, because if we are able to only sell this software to this single client, then
Yeah.
they should pay for everything and that we do. But we could also say that, yeah, we take the risk of uh, giving you this software for a low monthly fee, but we will develop it for you. And but we can actually, without any question, sell it to anyone else. And then that's more fair, I think, that, yeah, we develop software that we host and we run, and you rent it, but we have the right to sell it to anyone who want to use it.
Yeah, but if you have this once in a lifetime business idea, you don't want to enter into that kind of deal. You want to have the stuff for yourself.
Yes, then you should pay extra for that, I guess.
Yeah. But one of the situations here also is actually has to do with another aspect of this, because let's say for some reason the customer gets tired with you and want to change to another company, developing company.
Yeah.
So what about the source code? And of course, it would be very important for this customer to have the source code so that somebody else could work with it onwards. And I think that's one of the real things, important things that you guarantee to the customers. Yes, you have the right to work with this software here to do whatever, or to sell it, or whatever you want to do it. But so have we.
Yeah.
And you could add to that, and the reason it doesn't cost anymore is that you already benefit from what you did, what we did on the last project.
Yeah.
With the same sort of rules. And we actually just did that with a customer. Whose response was that? Perfectly fair, no problem with that. So I think that in most situations, some set up with what you could call shared IPRs, shared intellectual property rights, would be best for both parties. But I think we would have to get hold of a lawyer, to write down how exactly does a paragraph like that look like, because I sure don't know.
Before entering a project together with a client, we should have a conversation about the ownership of the software.
Yeah.
So we are clear on that, and that's always a good thing to write a contract before you start anything.
Yeah.
So that those things are clear and written on paper. Because even though there are kind of standard laws that you can follow and expect to work, that is not always the case for the customer. You might have a very unhappy customer if they realize that you have sold the software they thought that they owned. You could also talk about, we use different plugins and modules and stuff, and those are reused in every single project, like a calendar pop-up, for instance. That's every project we have a calendar pop-up, basically. You don't have to write everything yourself, and that saves a lot of time. And then you cannot really charge on the hours you use for the project, because it's all about the customer has a problem, and the problem has a certain price tag on it. And if you can create something that solves that problem to a price tag that is below the hurting point of that problem, so you create something with more value than the client has to pay, then that's a fair deal, regardless of how many hours you spend.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But that was a good conversation. And if anyone has any comments to this, please share in the comments below. And talk to you next week.
Yeah. Bye for now.
Yeah. Bye.